Hey everybody, as you can see I'm not with you guys today. It's because I had something planned prior, and Dr. Ritter and Miss Hobby were kind enough to accommodate me on that. But Dr. Ritter still didn't let me off the hook. He asked me to record my presentation of my newsletter to kind of let you guys know my thought process and what everything is on the newsletter. I had the genre of poetry, and the definition that's given came from a children's website. So we were asked on the rubric that the definition be easy to understand for parents and children alike, and I think it's very fluid and it's very easy to understand, and it gives a fun definition to kind of generalize what poetry is. My suggested books, I have 5, and as you can see, 3 of the 5 are from Shel Silverstein. He is the author of A Light in the Attic, Where the Sidewalk Ends, books like that. And I was excited when I got this genre because I had both of those books when I was younger, and there's still some of my favorite poems in there that I can still remember now. My CRCT practice, it instructs children to read the poem 1 inch tall from Where the Sidewalk Ends, and you're to ask the child to write a poem from a different perspective. The example the newsletter gives is to write from the viewpoint of being 1 mile long instead of 1 inch tall. So they can get creative with that, and they can write from a different viewpoint. The parent-child activity comes from a kind of incorporated math in with the poetry genre. They're to read the poem Shapes from, I think it's A Light in the Attic, and they're to rearrange the shapes the way the poem tells them to do it. And the poems it's right there just in case they don't have access to the book. I went ahead and put that on there. But the question at the bottom says, do you think the illustration in the book will look like yours? Why or why not? And I tried this at home, and it was really neat to see, kind of what I came up with, and it was really fun. So it would be a good way to do to have the parents do one and then the child do the other, and then compare and see if they match or if they're different and what's different about them. My spotlight book is A Light in the Attic, and I mentioned earlier I had this when I was a little girl, and I loved it. I can still remember reading those poems. It's a book of poetry. It's full of neat poems, a lot of nonsense poems. It's just good things funny things for kids to read and get engaged in. You can see the picture of the boy with his finger up his nose. That is an illustration from one of his books, and I actually remember that poem when I was younger too. Questions to consider: what are your own ideas and assumptions about poetry, and how will it help you as a reader to pay close attention to words and language? Poetry is full of many plays on words and language that describes things that you wouldn't usually use, and I think those are good questions as far as the genre goes. And finally, the spotlight author, of course, that I chose was Shel Silverstein, and this was interesting to me because I didn't know this either, but it says he was best known for his poetry, but he was also a writer, a composer, a lyricist, a playwright, and a folk singer who began his career as a cartoonist. So he's a very well-rounded artist. I had no clue about all those. And then it even gives a little talking point at the bottom. It says to discuss with your students how one's interests influence one's work. And then it gives the example of the musical rhythm of Shel's poetry was influenced by his experience as a composer and a musician. So I thought that was interesting. It's a little fun fact, but like I said, I didn't even know about him myself. So that's it. Short and sweet. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope everybody has a great summer break, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.